Welcome to Seen and Heard with Dr. Cathy Wield, a podcast series which explores the life and stories of ex-boarders and how they've fared since leaving school. Whether we've had good, positive, or bad and negative experiences of boarding school, everyone has a story to tell. And one thing's for sure, the past has a way of shaping us into the people we are today. So now Seen and Heard is a committed group of ex-boarding school pupils who understand the unique institutional experience of being raised in these environments and who believe in the power of connection to heal. So welcome to you today, Nicola, and I look forward to speaking to you more. So do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Nice to see you, Cathy. I'm Nicola. I am a psychotherapist. I've been practicing for nearly 30 years. I was initially drawn towards mental health and emotional distress, childhood trauma. So I've been in that world for a long time, but not specifically anything to do with boarding school trauma until the last 5 or 6 years. I was a boarder myself. I was a day girl for a term, and then I boarded for the rest of the time from 11 to 16 in a girls' boarding school. So I was state educated before and after, which is my experience. Yeah.
Okay. And what made your parents send you away to boarding school?
Well, that remains something of a mystery, I would say. There are various stories, as there always are. I think I had my dad changed jobs a lot, so we moved roughly every 2 years throughout my childhood. And I think I passed my 11 plus, and there was a feeling that they wanted me in the same school for the next 5 years, although that doesn't quite tally with the being a day girl. So, there are some things that are unanswered there. I think there is something of that. My dad was from a working class background, and I think there was something aspirational for him about being able to send his daughter to a private school. Neither of my parents went to boarding school, so I don't think they had any notion of the legacy that might come with that. And of course, they continued to move. So I went to boarding school, and then they moved to the other side of the country. So, there were impacts from that as well.
Okay, yeah. So and was it an all-girls school?
It was an all-girls school. Yes, it was. Yes, with a sixth form, although I didn't stay on for the sixth form. I left at 16. Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked previously, haven't we, about the impact of school, particularly on women and girls. And I'm really interested to hear a bit more about your thoughts on this. How did
Yes.
you find it, and what sort of impact do you think it has generally?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking before we met this morning, I was thinking, because having been in the therapy world for a long time, I've obviously been in therapy myself when I was on training courses because I wanted to be, and at no point did boarding school come up as an issue in those therapies. So I think there's something very hidden about it, and I think there's probably a lot of therapists out there who don't understand the impact, and nor did I. And I'm thinking, actually, it was Alex Renton's radio documentaries that connected me with this, with my own experience. But the other thing I've noticed is it's fantastic to hear all these men speaking about their experiences and the often horrifically traumatic things they've been through.
Yeah.
But they're all quite well known.
Yeah.
And they all went to elite boarding schools and have gone into the world where they are in very prominent positions, whether it's in the media or prime ministers, previous to come, whatever. And I think when I hear them speak, I'm very glad to hear that, them being able to have those conversations. But it always strikes me that where are the women's voices? It's almost as if there were no boarding schools for women and no women went. It's not part of the narrative at all. And I think there's something that's something of a repeat of the experience of being a woman in a boarding school.
Yeah. Yeah.
that you're kind of made invisible, and
Yeah.
you're kind of asked to be quiet and comply. And I felt it very acutely, the kind of frustration of, well, yes, that's great, but where are the women? And I think the more I have reflected on my own experience and kind of heard other women's experiences, the idea of this kind of patriarchal, masculine institution, and being a woman, a woman, a girl coming into being a woman in that kind of very masculine environment has had a huge impact on me and other women, I think, in terms of how we have expressed ourselves as women. What kind of women did we feel we were allowed to be? Because it's, to survive, you have to contain so much emotionally.
So true.
So there are, not ascribing these to men or women, but there are kind of archetypally masculine and feminine characteristics. And, you know, I think I'm aware that I've got a lot of masculine characteristics, and I operate very well in the world of work. But the more archetypally feminine characteristics of being receptive and nurturing, I have struggled with those because I think I was not given any warmth or care or space to develop those aspects of myself. And I think that's where women really have a different experience.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, what I also find fascinating is the fact that as girls, we went into these institutions, which you've rightly said were built on a male model.
Mm.
And we hit puberty. Many of us had our first periods at
Yeah.
boarding school.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, are you able to talk a little bit about that aspect?
Yes, I think, well, it's particularly because I've been doing some training, and we spoke about this recently, and the experience of being in a group of women speaking about what it was like to hit puberty in a boarding school was a rather lovely experience, in that it never happened. So I think one of the things that happened for me in my boarding school was I didn't speak about it at all. I just kind of got on with it and didn't refer to it at all, as if it wasn't happening. I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is that as if it wasn't happening, although
Yeah,
every girl around me would have been going through it at some point.
yeah,
So it was
yeah.
very practical, and the idea was to not make a fuss.
Mm. Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so
It
that you
was
come at
did you get it called The
the
Curse?
curse. It was called the
Yeah,
curse. Yes, it was. It was. And I think there was that real wanting to conceal it and for it
yeah,
not to be noticeable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I
then to
mean,
come out and go on. Yeah.
we had the navy blue knickers, and you know
Green
there
for
were
us.
all very subtle
Yeah.
ways of hiding it.
Mm, mm. And I remember standing in pottery lessons for some reason. We had to stand up a lot and having, period pains and feeling so exhausted, but never saying a word. And I think it's that there was nowhere to take that.
No,
No care or gentleness around you. And I think in later life that makes it difficult to speak about those things. And encountering women who didn't grow up in that environment, who are very open about their periods and their bodies and their womanliness, and being very aware of that being uncomfortable. How do you
yeah,
do that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but in our school, if you did complain, you were labelled a hypochondriac.
Oh.
Yes, complaining about your
Mm,
health, how you
mm,
felt.
mm.
Um, you were deemed to be weak, so yeah, we did not talk about the discomfort or
No.
the
Or the
difficulties.
mess, or
Yeah,
keeping that
yeah,
sort of keeping that secret, and washing your clothes, and all that kind of, it being somehow something that other people would not want to know about. A part of
yeah,
yourself you needed to keep concealed.
yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was just about the times, because people say, oh, well, things have changed. I think we were in a uniquely difficult situation because we didn't have our mothers
I think so.
to talk to.
I think so. Yes. Because there was no one to tell.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then, in the holidays, it didn't feel right because you weren't used to it. It was just...
Yes. I actually, that reminds me of an experience when I went home. So I had my first period while I was at boarding school, and I sent a little note to my mother saying I've started my period, and she showed my sisters and they made fun when I got home. And I remember feeling so exposed. And I used to wash my own knickers. And I remember her saying, you don't have to do that, I'll wash them. And I just thought, no, I'll do it. So it's that kind of training already that I will take care of myself and I will keep this to myself.
Yeah. It was such a different kind of experience, I think, to most people who have parents to go home to and a family around them. And then, of course, there was an amount of teasing and bullying at school. And it's very different for a woman to be bullied at school, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I think that what I understand about the boys' experience is it's much more expressed and physical, and there's a discharge of tension and anger and whatever. I mean, it's brutal as well. With girls, it's much more subtle. You're excluded or you're kind of laughed at. It's a very different thing.
Yeah,
indeed.
indeed.
And there's no discharge of the anger. Anger is not what happens with anger in boarding schools, in girls' boarding schools, I wonder.
Yeah,
Because people don't have fights, generally speaking.
No.
Sports,
No.
I guess. But
Yeah.
That aggression, I think. I wonder what happens to the aggression, how that gets pushed down.
Well, we became, I suppose, very passive aggressive in some ways.
And depressed.
Possibly. Yes. Turned it inward, perhaps, for some of us anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I remember, did you have the situation where people were sent to Coventry? That was the term they used when you were silent, so nobody would speak to you, and you were ostracised.
Yeah.
And, again, to feel so isolated and unable to talk to somebody about what was happening. Because at the end of the day, never.
It's just that kind of having to contain everything.
Yeah.
And I think as women, we're asked to do that anyway, societally. But I think it's exacerbated by the boarding school experience.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was interested in when I began to explore this area of my life and my work was that a lot of the ex-boarders who came to me for therapy were men, not women. And I was wondering where all the women were. And I know one of my theories was, I bet they're all therapists. And my experience tells me there's a truth to that. Is that what we do is we contain and we look after others.
Yeah.
Rather than perhaps being looked after. And there's an idea in the boarding school therapy world that women who are married to ex-boarders often say, go into therapy. This is affecting you. And I have wondered whether the husbands do that for the ex-boarder wives, and apparently they don't. So, it's, again, I'm not sure what that's about, but it's about women not being noticed and their trauma not being noticed, I think.
So, I mean, did you feel that you were kind of quite self-aware that boarding school had affected you? You said something about that you weren't initially.
No, I think I was always drawn to working with childhood trauma. I think And so it was in there anyway. So I've worked a lot with people with childhood trauma, whether that's big events or little, just neglectful childhoods, but the boarding school thing, I hadn't made sense of it. And as I went into it, the two bits that really were light bulb moments for me that I had just not managed to make sense of in my life were the intimacy, how difficult it is to know how to be intimate in relationships after a boarding school upbringing, because there isn't intimacy there and you don't learn it. And the kind of stretching and breaking of relationships with family, which is connected to the intimacy, because you're not there.
No,
And the to and fro, the back and forth, and how hard it is to hold connection. And I certainly know that's an issue I've struggled with in my life in relationships. So those bits, I'd wondered why and didn't know. And then I read boarding school literature and I did some training and I thought, this is it. This is why I didn't know how to do it.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? I know one of my therapists once said to me that part of my problems was that I didn't have role models growing up. I thought that was very insightful.
I think, you have children. This comes up when you have children, doesn't it? That I remember when my child was a teenager, I thought, I have no role model for bringing up a teenager because I was brought up by an institution during that period. Before and after, I had a little bit of sense of what I'd had, but that bit in the middle, no idea. And I was talking to someone recently about this idea. When you tell your child to do something and they don't do it straight away, the bemusement of an ex-boarder parent, why aren't they doing it straight away? And I was talking to someone about this and the idea that when you're at boarding school, you can play and then the matron comes in and says it's bedtime and everybody immediately switches off. And that is not a natural thing for a child to do.
No. Well, we were very timetabled.
Yes.
And I mean, what child, has everything timetabled to the minute, woken by a bell?
By a bell, yes. And up straight away. There's no lazing around and taking your time. I think that is a strange thing to observe in your own children sometimes.
It is.
Look what they're getting to do. How odd. Yeah.
And food.
Yes.
How was food for you?
While I was at boarding school, food for me was okay until towards the end. And then I got very bored with having to eat the same things on the same days, every day, every week. And there are certain things I don't like. There's certain textures I don't like, and that's always been the case. And I stopped eating those things. And then they got very agitated with me because they assumed I was kind of not eating because I wanted to lose weight. And it wasn't that. It was I can look back now and say I had reached a slight point of despair at that point. Like, I just can't do this anymore. So the food, and I am very particular about what I like to eat now, and I won't have people telling me what I can and can't eat. I will not. So that, I think that's probably from having all those years of meals of you have to eat this at this time.
Yes, because there was such a lack of choice. It was
some of it was horrible
on your plate.
Yeah. And being, I mean, I remember one instant where it was semolina, and I can't eat things of that texture. That I never have been able to. And being the only person with a bowl of semolina in front of me, everybody else has finished. Nobody could leave until I ate one spoonful. And it's such a power play, isn't it? It's not about the food. It's about you will do what we say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I remember being made to stay behind to eat cheese sauce. I hated cheese at that time. And this matron standing there glowering and I couldn't eat it.
Mm.
Um, in the end, she lost because
Mm.
she couldn't force me to
She
eat
couldn't make
it.
you do it. Yeah. Yeah.
But, I then had to go to the doctor to get a doctor's certificate to 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 give me permission not to eat cheese.
But so I was put on the teacher's table because I wouldn't eat potatoes. I didn't like potatoes. And they sent me off to the SAN for urine tests because they said, well, you must be anorexic then if you don't eat potatoes. It was just a nonsense.
Yeah. And these are very specifically girl issues,
Aren't
I
they?
think.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other bit of that, which is interesting because I was just speaking about this at the weekend, is that at the same time I had eczema quite badly on my eyes and my neck and my hands, and not one comment was made about that. So the potatoes were more agitating for the house mistress and the matron of the school than a child with eczema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really serious, isn't it? That
It is. Yeah.
and one of the things which I think people don't understand is that emotional neglect, is actually very serious. And whereas, physical and sexual abuse, terrible though it
They
is,
are. Yeah.
it is visible. It can
Mm-hmm.
be seen and it can be understood outside of the context, whereas neglect isn't understood.
No, I agree.
And I think a lot of the female boarders, actually, it's the emotional neglect more than anything that affects them later on in life.
Well, I think that kind of inability to take care of yourself because nobody took care of you.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
haven't, as a therapist, I would say that hasn't been internalized. You don't have that experience. So you do the best you can, but there are times when you're kind of taking care of yourself in the way a child would.
Yes.
With biscuits and TV. I mean, that's fine, but not as a
Yeah.
lifestyle. And I think that is the neglect. And yeah, and the just feeling there's no one to speak to, but even losing the sense that would even be a thing you would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember as an adult in a workplace listening to a colleague who I suspect had not been to boarding school, regaling the manager with stories of her life. And I remember thinking, why would you think she'd be interested in anything you had to say? And that is a legacy of boarding school. It's like, well, who would care?
Yeah. Yeah.
What I think, what I've been thinking, what I'm going through. Yeah.
And confidence issues seem to be another theme that comes up. And I mean, we all know, don't we, that, wherever you are as a child, if you're not being encouraged, it's hard to become a confident adult.
Yeah.
But I think we had almost a double whammy in that if we weren't getting it at school, we also weren't going to get it at home. And yet there was this expectation on us that somehow we would come out these incredibly rounded citizens who, I felt, certainly in my own education, was supposed to end up being good wives.
I don't think I had that one actually, but yes, or if I did, I didn't listen. Yeah, but you're and for me, there was something about the family and home. What are those things? And not knowing how to make for home or a family, and feeling on the outside. Yeah, I think that those are very painful things that you can carry with you for quite a long time.
So if you now are able to come across somebody who wanted to discuss whether or not to send their children to boarding school, what would you say to them?
You're mad. No, I will. I might think that. No, I think what I would say is you will miss years and years of your child's life, and you will lose intimacy with them and relationship, because they won't be there. And you're kind of giving your child away to someone else to bring up. And institutional care is institutional care, whether you think it's gilded or not. It's not the same as being in a family where you can, have arguments, fall in, fall out, learn how it is to live with other people intimately, with all that means. For me, the education is not worth that loss. This is your child, and you will lose them in some sense, and they will lose you. That's what I would say.
Interesting. And then academics, now that's another issue altogether, because one of the things that I have heard is that actually a lot of these girls' schools, they were not quite so good academically as the boys' schools.
As the boys, yeah.
And so actually the privileged education that we were supposed to receive wasn't quite so privileged.
I would agree with that, Cathy. I think whenever I hear the men speaking about their boarding school experience and where they are in life now, and I think I went to a very minor girls' school, and it was not elite in the least, and the education was okay. But I went to a grammar school, state grammar, for sixth form, and I think those kids had a better education than I had, and that was a state school. So I think that's a bit of a myth, that the girls get a great education. And I guess you're right, is that I found myself thinking, well, if these institutions are for training boys to manage the colonies, that they were, what is the point of sending girls to them? What were we there for? And I guess to be companions, to be supports. And then I wonder, you become a therapist where you may not be a wife, but you're a therapist and you're still supporting, so there is something of that in that.
Yeah. Yes, it is fascinating, I think, to do a deep dive into what exactly these institutions were there for. And obviously it's, I have my sympathies with parents who feel that they're doing the right thing for their children.
Yes, yeah.
And not every child, comes out of it the same way.
No, that's true. That's true. Not everybody is damaged in the same way.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's another thing which fascinates me is whether the women who come out of boarding schools have as many problems with addictions, for instance, as the men. I know some do.
Some do, yeah.
But, I can't help wondering whether that invisibility and that silence, which we were so good at, means that there are a lot of women around who perhaps, don't really understand the impact of what happened to them.
Yeah, and maybe have issues with addiction that are hidden.
Yeah.
I'm thinking eating disorders particularly.
Yeah.
And also kind of sex addictions, where that's the only way to get that closeness that was so longed for.
Yeah.
I have come across that.
Interesting.
Women ex-boarders,
Yeah. Yes,
but again,
going back to the friendship, intimacy problems, again, I do know some ex-boarders who have very good friends from boarding school. I also know quite a lot of us who actually, once we left, we really did not want to keep in touch with people.
I mean, I had no friends from my boarding school years, and have not had anybody in my world who went to boarding school, funny enough. And I think that's why I've so rarely spoken about it, because nobody else went. So it was actually something quite shameful. I felt quite embarrassed that I'd been, because of the privilege associated with it.
Yes.
So I just wouldn't mention it at all. And so that for me is a bit of, I'm going to speak now about I'm a woman who went to boarding school and was affected.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
yeah, there can be some shame about the privilege, but also I'm thinking, and I wonder about the lack of trust between girls at boarding school, because it's dangerous, to trust another woman with your vulnerability, and how that impacts later in friendships. Yeah, I think
Yes.
to be sitting with a group of women can feel a dangerous thing for an ex-boarder woman.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I think part of that was that whole anxiety of, for instance, entering into the common room, not knowing whether actually you've been the subject of the conversation for
Yes, yes.
10
And has there
minutes.
been a realigning of alliances? And are
Yes,
you out now?
yeah,
Yes, yes. It's very precarious. It's quite, yeah. You have
yeah.
to be on alert all the time.
Yes,
Mm.
yeah. No way to relax.
No, no, no.
So in your situation at school, were you in a dormitory or single rooms? What was the
It
sleeping arrangement?
varied. In the first year, it was the kind of horse box 12, and then after that, it was groups of 4, and then in the final year, it was just pairs. So
Right.
no single rooms, but yeah, yeah. But I've thought about this a lot, because I'm quite a private person. I like my privacy, but I don't have a memory of that being impinged upon. But I'm very self-contained, so I think I can hold my space around me even when there's other people there. So yeah, yeah, it was. It was. I don't have some of the experience that I know some people have had of things being stolen, and that invasiveness of having people around you all the time.
And were you moved around a lot? I mean, each term.
I think each term we had to change, but
And were you given choice about who you were with?
we definitely were in the final year when we chose to. But that in itself was a painful experience if you weren't picked,
Yeah.
and you could end up with the people nobody wanted, and you then became one of the people who nobody wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a bit like being picked for games. It was that
Yes.
kind of
Oh, yeah.
awful experience. Yeah. I really can't remember whether we had choice or not. I'm thinking about who I was with, and I think we must have had some choice, actually. Yeah, yeah, maybe, maybe.
Yeah. No, we were never given a choice.
And did you know in advance where you were going to be
No.
each term? You see, we did. So at
Mm,
least I knew what I was coming back to.
right.
Yes, which makes quite a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it, that, when you are sleeping in dormitories, you have to learn to sleep with the noise of other people,
Mm-hmm.
whether they snore or get up
Yes,
or all
yes,
the rest of it.
yeah.
Um, and no talking after lights out. That was another
Well,
big.
if one adhered to that, which some of
If
us
one
did not.
adhered to that. No, and of course you didn't adhere to it,
No, you
but then
didn't.
you were on the alert for when the patrolling matron came
Well,
along.
yes. I have to say I spent quite a lot of time standing in the corridors at night for talking after lights out.
Yeah,
It was quite a common experience. I mean, that in itself is such an odd thing, isn't it? And yet, almost everybody I've ever spoken to says, yes, we had to stand in the corridor facing the wall if we were caught talking after lights out.
yeah. In a nightie or
In a
pajamas,
nightie,
no
regardless
dressing
of what,
gown.
no dressing
Yeah,
gown, regardless of what the temperature was. And I, I, I'm thinking it was for an hour. I don't know. I don't know how long it was for. I know
yes.
I was out there a lot, but
And the thing was that it actually became quite a normal thing to happen.
definitely,
So,
definitely.
it was only hearing other people say it that it reminded me,
Me
because it had
too.
just become part of life.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
what happened.
Yes. And that patrolling of corridors. I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a strange thing in
yeah,
itself, isn't it?
yeah. And there was no comfort if somebody was upset.
No,
Our matrons
mm,
never, ever
no,
comforted.
no, no. There was no warmth or comfort there at all. No,
And in fact,
the idea of even looking for that there is
yes,
makes my head feel like it'll explode. What would that be? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh my,
So you think, but then I always think back to this is day in, day out, year in, year out. You're
yeah,
in that
yeah,
environment where the women in charge of you are not warm or comforting or safe, and you're a
no,
little girl,
yeah,
and you're having to survive in that environment. It's
yeah,
quite
yeah.
shocking. Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know nowadays in some schools they're called house parents,
Yes.
which they weren't in my day. It was matrons. But actually, I'm glad they weren't called house parents because there was absolutely no parenting going on
No,
whatsoever.
not at all. Not even an illusion of trying, I would have said when I was there. Such a strange thing.
It is a strange thing.
Yeah.
And so, just going back to where we started, really, and the difference between the male and female boarder, which I think, you've been very articulate in outlining some of the differences. I mean, is there anything that you particularly would like to say to the boarding school community as we're coming? Well, I think we're coming up to a close, aren't we? About this issue, because I feel it's something very important.
I suppose what I'd like to say is that it's very easy for women's voices and stories to be ignored, are not even thought of, and I think it's easy for us as women ex-boarders to almost not notice either that we're not speaking and that we're not part of that wider story. So I would say speak. I mean, I sat in a group of 17 women and we were talking about bullying in boarding schools and we were talking about boys for over an hour. And it took a non-boarder man to say, I'd like to hear about the girls. 17 women, none of us said, what about us? So there's something that goes on where women continue to be silenced and to silence themselves. So I think anything that gives a forum where we can just have a conversation and just say, you know what, we're here as well. Our stories are important too, even though they may not be the same as the men's. No,
and they're not. And I think also that it's important that people know that we're not saying that the physical and sexual abuse which happened was not important. It was
absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, that stands as things that have happened to people, and those are what they are. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think there is a danger of missing the neglect, the neglectful experience that has had long-term impacts on people's lives as adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it needs to be heard because of that, because it's also a trauma.
It is.
Yeah. It's not to diminish or deny the very awful experiences that other people have had. But this is also a legacy of a boarding school education.
And I mean, just to add to that, I would say, that my experience as a doctor is that actually children who've been emotionally neglected, severely emotionally neglected, can die for want of emotional care.
Yeah.
When you looked at those children who came out of the orphanages in
Romania.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were in such a terrible state, and yet it wasn't the physical abuse that was the issue, it was emotional abuse.
Yes.
And so I think, we have a tendency to fail to understand just how important it is. And they've done experiments with monkeys, haven't they, where when they can be given food and care, baby monkeys, but they will not thrive, and children fail to thrive if they're not given the love and attention that children need.
And that just reminds me of something I had a conversation recently about the lack of touch.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we're talking about, isn't it? You can be fed and clothed and all the rest of it, but you can go years with nobody touching you as a child growing into a woman or a man.
Yeah.
And that's significant. Yeah.
It's very significant.
Because if you have a child at home, you're touching them all the time, you know. You just pat it on
Cuddling.
the head or the back, or just a cuddle. Boarding school children do not have that, and then touch becomes also problematic.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing which I just thought was important was appearance. I have noticed, and I wonder if you have too, that many boarding school women are not people who wear makeup and are, dressed particularly, I don't know, you can't say well, but that's the impression I thought about
But
this
they
myself.
don't take much
No.
trouble with their appearance. Yes, I would agree with that. Not all, but there is
it's a significant number.
Yes. That's something about what am I allowed to be? Oh, we don't do that. That's a bit.
Yeah.
That's
because we weren't allowed makeup. My cousin taught me to wear a bit of makeup when I met her. But actually, I had a very, very glamorous mother. And somehow I never picked up
she
how
didn't
she
pass
did it.
on that skill to you. Yeah. I think I went to a makeup department in a department store and said, how do I do this? How does this work? Yeah. So it's that lack of parenting, isn't it?
It is.
It is. Yeah.
And yet here we are. We've come out the other side.
We have.
And we're thriving. Not
Mm.
everyone is yet, but
No.
it's possible, isn't it?
And I would also say that you may come to this late, but it's still worth coming to it, because I think we do. Hopefully with all this, with the narratives that are out there now, maybe younger ex-boarders will come to it earlier.
Yes.
But some of us come to it late, and that's fine. You still get there. It's worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Oh, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I have no
and
idea
you.
what the time is.
No, not me. Oh, I can see now. It's 12:01.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
So, but thank you so much. And, keep in touch.
I will.
And maybe we should do this again.
Yeah.
There's always conversations to be had. I'm very grateful for you coming.
Thank you, Cathy, and I have really enjoyed it, and it's been a very important thing. I've wanted to, as you know, speak out about this for a while now, so it's been a real pleasure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.